shall we begin?
Let the games begin.
All right.
A new age has begun. An age of freedom.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
Get to the chopper!
This is going to be quite a ride.
And hello, everybody, and welcome to the Movie Bit Podcast. I am your host, Christian. Thank you very much for joining the podcast this week. It is a big week this week, not just on movie news items, but also for me personally, because when you're, I don't know when you listen to this, but this will also obviously go out on Friday, and tomorrow, Saturday. Why am I out of breath? Tomorrow, Saturday, when this podcast gets uploaded, it is my birthday. So that's pretty awesome for me. I'm turning the big 3-0. Which is depressing. No, I'm just kidding. I can really care. I don't really care. But yeah. So it's a big week this week, but we're not talking about that. This is a Movie Pit Podcast where we talk about all the big breaking movie news items of the week. No trailers. I mean, there were trailers this week. Link those down below in the description/show notes area for you guys to go check them out. We do have one movie coming out, at least one big movie that I can think of coming out in theaters, because obviously theaters are starting to open up a little bit. Definitely by next week. Theaters will be opening up, so we'll obviously have to start. I'll have to start redoing my spiel for the movies coming out in theaters. But yeah, we're gonna get right to the podcast this week because we have a lot to get to. Before we get to any of the news, I do want to mention, unfortunately, for the second week in a row, we're going to be talking about people who have passed away this week. We lost two people this week, two veteran actors that have been around for a long time. George Segal and Jessica Walter passed away this week. George Segal passed away at the age of 87. He passed away due to complications from his bypass surgery that he had. Comes from his wife Sonia. Segal was part of some iconic comedies in his very long and great career, like Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf being one of them. That's kind of the one that's been thrown around a lot. I know him a little bit more from his TV work, to be honest, from like the TV series Just Shoot Me, and then recently the ABC comedy The Goldbergs, which he was actually very funny in, and he was actually pretty great. But yeah, anytime he popped up on screen, you're like, oh, okay, that's George Segal. It's he's gonna at least make us all laugh. But he passed away this week. Jessica Walter also passed away. She passed away in her sleep. Walter, like Segal, has been working around for decades as well. She's probably mostly well known recently by fans for her performances in Arrested Development and her voice work on Archer. She was also in the Clint Eastwood movie Play Misty for Me, which I know has also been getting a lot of attention recently since the announcement of her passing. So rest in peace to both those very lovely people, because everything that's been coming out from people that have worked with them, people who have admired them, admired their work, have had nothing but great things to say about them. So rest in peace to both George Segal and Jessica Walter. And of course, my thoughts and prayers go out to their family. All right, so no easy transition, obviously, ever from stuff like that. But we're going to keep going. We have 3 movie news items that came out after the podcast went out last week. The first one, it looks like Ace Ventura is finally getting its 3rd movie, because the movie is officially in the works over at Amazon Studios. The movie's original production, Morgan Creek, are actually a part of it. They were actually part of a spotlight piece that was being written, and they dropped the news just like that, just nonchalantly dropped like, yeah, we're doing an Ace Ventura 3. So not very interesting way to announce that you're doing a movie, but there you go. The movie will be written by Pat Casey and Josh Miller, who recently wrote Sonic the Hedgehog and the currently in production sequel. The big thing here is it's unclear if Jim Carrey will return for the 3rd movie. I'm sure he will, but at least when this story was announced, he was not a part of it. So we'll have to wait and see if he's going to come back. But I'm assuming he is. Obviously, Jim Carrey was in the first one. I don't know if he's in the second one. I don't know if it was been announced that he's going to be in the second one, but I'm sure their working relationship made this possible. The second movie news item is that Daniel Radcliffe is set to play the villain in the action romantic comedy The Lost City of D. The movie already has Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum set to star. The movie will be directed and written by Adam and Aaron Nee, which follows a reclusive romance novelist that would be played by Bullock, who was sure nothing could be worse than getting stuck on a book tour with their cover model, played by Tatum, until a kidnapping attempt sweeps them both into a cutthroat jungle adventure, proving life can be so much stranger and more romantic than any of our paperback fictions. So this movie has been around. This movie's been in the works for a little bit. We haven't really talked about it on the podcast that much because there just hasn't been that much to announce. But now we have our three main leads. From the looks of it, looks like Daniel Radcliffe maybe will be the person that kidnaps them and puts them on the island for some reason. We'll see what that reason is, but there you go. And the last movie news item that came out after the podcast went up last week was that MGM has picked up a very interesting project in Combat Control. The movie will see Jake Gyllenhaal play Medal of Honor recipient John Chapman, while the movie will be directed by Sam Hargrave, who was the man behind Netflix's Extraction with Chris Hemsworth. The movie is based on a true story of Air Force CCT champion who died in battle on March 4th, 2002 in Afghanistan. Following his death, no one imagined it would take over a decade for the truth to what really happened on the snowy mountainside to emerge. 15 years later, Air Force Captain Cora Alexander is tasked with the nearly impossible job of investigating whether Chapman is worthy of a recipient of the medal despite no eyewitnesses to his actions and the top secret world surrounding clandestine operations. Chapman was awarded the medal, nonetheless, the military's highest award of all that, on August 22nd of 2018. Sounds interesting. Obviously, Jake Gyllenhaal and Sam Hargrave. Hargrave has been sought out by a lot of people after Extraction came out. Obviously, there's rumors that another Extraction movie could happen, and Hargrave will be a part of that. But you got Hargrave, you have Jake Gyllenhaal, and you have this amazing true story. I can only imagine what the possibilities could be with all those people involved. So there you go. All right, so those are all the movie news items. Those three movie news items that came out after the podcast went up last week. We're going to move forward, of course, with our quickfire segment. And once again, quickfire for any of the new listeners out there or people who need a reminder. Our movie news items that are noteworthy, but I don't have too much to say about them most of the time because they're pretty self-explanatory, or like I mentioned, I just don't have too much to say about them, but I do believe they're noteworthy and people should know about them. So, like this one. The first quickfire movie news item is that Spiral from the Book of Saw has moved its release yet again. Not a big move. It's actually moving up. It's actually moving up a week, so that should be interesting. Pretty sure the reason for that is because, again, movie theaters are starting to open up. The spin-off of the Saw movies, which does take place within the same world of the Saw universe. Can't believe there actually is a Saw universe. Can you believe that? I don't know. So anyway, Spiral was going to come out on May 21st, but has been moved up, like I said, a week, and will now come out on May 14th. Chris Rock stars as Detective Ezekiel Banks, who teams up with his police veteran father, Marcus, played by Samuel L. Jackson, and a rookie detective, William, played by Max Manghella from The Social Network, to try and solve a grisly investigation into the murders that are eerily reminiscent of the city's gruesome past. Spiral is directed by Darren Lynn Bousman, who directed Saw 2, 3, and 4, and is also written by Josh Stolberg and Peter Goldfinger, who wrote the last Saw movie, Jigsaw. Once again, Spiral from the Book of Saw, opens on May 14th. Moving on to some casting tidbits. Forrest Whitaker is set to star in the Netflix action thriller Havoc, which will star Tom Hardy and is written and directed by Gareth Evans, aka the man behind the Raid movies. The story is set after a drug deal gone wrong when a bruised detective, played by Tom Hardy, must fight his way through a criminal underground to rescue a politician's estranged son while unraveling a deep web of corruption and conspiracy that ensnares his entire city. No word yet on who Whitaker will play, but it sounds interesting. I said that I would keep up to date on this because I'm very excited for Gareth Evans. Anything that Gareth Evans really does from this point forward, I'm going to be excited for. And then you got Tom Hardy in the mix. Why not? So I'm excited for that. In one of two very surprise castings this week, Helen Mirren has joined Shazam! Fury of the Gods as the villain Hespera. Mirren, I hope I pronounced that right, Hespera. Anyway, Mirren will now join the other newcomer to the cast, which is an overall newcomer to the scene in Rachel Ziegler from the upcoming West Side Story remake that is happening, or reimagining. I don't know what term they're using for the West Side Story movie, the one that's directed by Steven Spielberg. But anyway, Rachel Ziegler's also there. She joined last month in a role that is unknown at the moment, but reports say that the two characters will be sisters. This report comes from Hollywood Reporter, that they will be sisters, although we don't know, again, who Ziegler is playing, and we don't know, maybe she will be the villain too, or some sort of conflicted family history there. We don't know. Regardless, David F. Sandberg will return along with the cast, I'm assuming, from the first movie. The majority of the first cast from the movie will return as well. So again, that's one of two surprise castings. We'll talk about the other one in our big movie news items of the week. Moving on with the quickfire casting updates, Steven Spielberg's coming-of-age movie inspired by his own childhood has added Seth Rogen to the cast. Last week, when the movie was announced, Michelle Williams was cast as Spielberg's mother, or at least a woman that is inspired by Spielberg's mother. Rogen will play someone that is inspired by Spielberg's favorite uncle. Spielberg will co-write the movie with Tony Kushner, who wrote Lincoln with him and also wrote the upcoming West Side Story, and plans to start filming this summer for a 2022 release. Moving on, Sony Pictures is taking another crack at a feature-length film based on the classic TV series Bewitched. They have hired writers in Terry Matalas and Travis Fickett, who ran the TV series MacGyver and the TV series 12 Monkeys. If you remember, Sony did do a Bewitched movie before, and they did it as a romantic comedy with Nicole Kidman and Will Ferrell, which was not very good. This new version is said to be different, as reports say the jumping off point is the TV series, which sees, of course, a witch marrying an advertising executive and then trying to hide her abilities from their crazy relatives who keep dropping in. No word yet on who the director will be or who they're eyeing out to star, but let's hope that Sony learns from their mistakes, because that first one was not good. Not saying this is a sequel, but just saying it just wasn't good. Moving on. Peter Farrelly's next movie, The Greatest Beer Run Ever, took some changes this week. For one, Apple Studios is now in talks to finance the movie. And the second one is actually cast-wise. Zac Efron and Russell Crowe are in talks to replace Dylan O'Brien and Viggo Mortensen on the project. Also in talks for a supporting role is Bill Murray, which actually worked with Peter Farrelly on the movie Kingpin. The movie is based on the best-selling book, The Greatest Beer Run Ever, a memoir of friendship, loyalty, and war by Chick Donahue and J.T. Malloy, which is based on Donahue's real-life journey from New York to Vietnam just to bring beer to his childhood friends who were serving in the army during the Vietnam War. It looks like Efron will replace Dylan O'Brien as Donahue, while Crowe will play a journalist reporting on Vietnam who meets Donahue in a Saigon bar and tells him the truth about the war and how the American people have been lied to about the war. Obviously, Vietnam, controversial subject as it is. No official word yet as to why O'Brien and Mortensen left, but it is being reported that it may have been due to scheduling conflicts. So, obviously, the dreaded scheduling conflicts, almost as dreaded as creative differences in Hollywood. Either way, production is expected to start in August in either Australia or New Zealand because, of course, they had better leaders when COVID broke out, and they have gone back practically to normal. That just makes me sad. Anyway, moving on. Kerry Joji Fukunaga, the man behind season 1 of HBO's True Detective and the director of the upcoming No Time to Die, is set to direct a feature adaptation of Image's cyberpunk comic book Tokyo Ghost for Legendary Pictures. One of the writers of the comic, Rick Remender, I think that's how you pronounce his last name, will write the script for the movie. Tokyo Ghost, for those unfamiliar, like I am, I've never actually heard about it. I think I've heard the name, but I don't know what it was about until I read this. Tokyo Ghost, set in 2089. Humanity has become fully addicted to technology and entertainment in order to escape their hardships of reality. The story follows constables Debbie Decay and Led Dent, who work as peacekeepers in the Isle of Los Angeles, where they are given a job that will take them to the last tech-free country on Earth, the Garden Nation of Tokyo. No word yet on when production could start, but Fukuhara is about to direct the first 3 episodes of Apple's World War II series Masters of the Air, and then, of course, has No Time to Die set for October, assuming that it does come out in October still, so they're probably going to start doing some press runs for that, I'm assuming, during the summer. And the last quick-fire movie news items, at least at the time of this recording, is the Resident Evil reboot officially has a title. It was revealed by writer-director Johannes Roberts, who, of course, is the man behind 47 Meters Down, the first one and the second one, and, of course, The Strangers Prey at Night. He did it during an interview during the Southwest by Southwest online film festival event. The title will be Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. And no, the movie will have no connection to the previous franchise. It is a brand new thing that is inspired by the main video game series, which should be exciting for many, many fans, including myself. The actual story details are actually wrapped up at the moment still, but the movie did finish filming a couple weeks ago, I believe, and it is set to come out on September 3rd. The cast includes Robbie Amell from the Babysitter movies on Netflix and Kaya I always mispronounce her last name. Scolodario from Crawl and the Maze Runner movies. Both of them will play Chris and Claire Redfield. Hannah John Kamen from Ant-Man and the Wasp and the sci-fi show Killjoys, which is very good. I will always try to promote that. She will be playing Jill Valentine. Tom Hooper from the Umbrella Academy will be playing Albert Wesker. Evan Jovia from Zombieland Double Tap will be playing Leon S. Kennedy. Leah Gao from the show The Expanse is playing Ada Wong. And Neil McDowell is playing William Birkin. Also co-starring are Don Logo as Chief Brian Irons, which I believe is an original character for the movie. I am not all that familiar with the Resident Evil lore as much as I wish to be. But anyway, all of that's the whole cast right there. So that's a pretty good cast. I'm not gonna lie. I've been pretty excited to see this because when it was announced, I know a lot of people were like, well, there was so many other things going on with Resident Evil, because Resident Evil has an animated movie coming out. They also have a TV series coming out, and now we have the movie coming out. So if you're a Resident Evil fan, you're pretty happy right now. Of course, there's the game with the giant vampire lady that, took the internet by storm. So I'm very excited for this. I think the cast is pretty great. I pretty much know everyone in the cast, which is very rare for me to know everyone in a cast like this. But this is pretty great. And they're all playing the video game characters. There haven't really been any set photos from what I can recall. So, and the movie's coming out in September. I can only assume that we'll be getting a trailer soon, since they have, again, finished filming. So we have a title now. I'm just really excited to see something from this. I really, really am. All right. So that's the quick fire movie news items, at least at the time of this recording, of course. Let us move on to the big movie news items of the week. Scratch that, because Warner Brothers and James Gunn decided to drop the first full-length trailer, and a red band trailer at that, to The Suicide Squad. So I just finished watching it, and it's pretty awesome, guys. I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty awesome. We don't get a full grasp of what the plot is just yet. We get little tidbits in there, but the trailer highlights, of course, we got Idris Elba as Bloodsport, who sounds like he might be the leader of the Suicide Squad at one point. So maybe Joe Kinnaman's Rick Flag either gets taken out and he's taken out of commission, or maybe he even dies at one point. So he kind of looks like it kind of takes over. And we do see the suggested storyline that he is a father figure to Daniela McGuire's Ratcatcher 2, who is also in the trailer. They're the two that share the scene in the bus once you watch the trailer. If you haven't watched the trailer, I recommend you watch the trailer before you start hearing me talk about this. Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn is also there. Of course, she lines everything up because Margot Robbie is just so good as Harley Quinn. And look, at the beginning of the trailer, it looks like they're trying to save Harley because she's been kidnapped, and of course, Harley Quinn is more than capable of handling herself. And we do see a little bit of what happens before her supposed rescue. We've seen a little bit of that also in all the other trailers and stuff, or little tidbits, teasers, I guess you would say.
3, 2.
What are you guys doing? What?
We're here to save you.
You were gonna save me?
It was a really good plan, too.
Well, I can go back inside and you can still do it.
That's patronizing.
I'm so sorry. Harley Quinn.
Bloodsport.
Speaking of Joe Kinnaman, of course, he is back. It's bugging me out a little bit because it sounds like he has an accent, and I don't remember him having that thick of an accent in the first movie. Am I wrong about that? I mean, it's been a while, I've seen the first one, but I don't remember him having that thick of an accent that he does. Michael Rooker plays Savant in the movie. In the trailer, it looks, even just in the trailer, I don't know if he'll be like that for the movie, but at least in the trailer, he acts as kind of our surrogate, reminding us what the Suicide Squad is, what happens if they get out of line, and, with the bomb attached to the back of their head. So there is that. We see David, I'm going to mispronounce the last name. David Dastmalchian. That's not how you pronounce it. He plays Polka Dot Man in the movie. He was also in the Ant-Man movies, but he plays Polka Dot Man in that. I almost said Pokemon. Polka Dot Man in this. It looks like he's depressed because there's just that moment where he's like, "I hope so," and it's just so sad, but also so funny at the same time. And it looks like we also might get a flashback to kind of his backstory a little bit. It looks like he's in a party sequence, or maybe it's something else that's going on that we don't know about. But editing wise, trailer, it looks like we might be getting like some sort of flashback sequence.
We're all gonna die.
I hope so.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
There's King Shark in the movie. He will be voiced by Sylvester Stallone. There was a picture of James Gunn and Sylvester Stallone together. There was rumors going to start that he was going to be in the movie. Then there was rumors that he was going to be voicing King Shark. That looks to be the case. He will be voicing King Shark in the movie, which is awesome. And King Shark in the trailer is amazing. He has that num num line. He has the hand line, but the money shot is when he's ripping someone in half. And when I saw that, I freaked out because I was like, oh my God, this is so James Gunn. And they're actually going full on with King Shark. So that's kind of cool. And of course, the big one is John Cena as Peacemaker. He's a character that's supposed to be this guy who is so about liberty and doing the right thing. And honestly, Cena looks like he's so good in that role. I mean, they're giving Peacemaker a TV show, so I mean, that should say something about that. But just the way he delivers that line about what he would do for liberty is and the way it's awesome. I think he's going to be a highlight of the movie.
You're the leader. You're supposed to be decisive.
And I've decided that you should eat a big bag of dicks.
If this whole beach was completely covered in dicks, and somebody said I'd eat every dick until the beach was clean for liberty, I would say no problemo.
Why would someone put penises all over the beach?
Who knows why madmen do what they do?
We do get looks at other people. Pete Davidson's Blackguard, Jai Courtney's Captain Boomerang, which of course is coming back. Viola Davis's Amanda Waller, who looks like she has some new techs in the movie. One of them is clearly going to be a comic relief. We get a brief look at Nathan Fillion's TDK, Alice Braga's So Soleria, which is supposed to be, she's kind of like a soldier character. Sean Gunn's Weasel, who is going to be in all CG, and of course he's making fun of probably a little bit of the fact that he's playing Rocket Raccoon, or that he played Rocket Raccoon on set, and now he's playing a fully CGI Weasel again. And of course Peter Capaldi's The Thinker, which has a nice little scene in the trailer with our Suicide Squad crew of Joe Kinnaman and Idris Elba and Margot Robbie.
Here's the deal. We fail the mission, you die.
If we find out any information you give us is false, you die.
If we find out you have personalized license plates, you die.
What? No.
If you cough without covering your mouth.
Hardly. Although that isn't an open invitation for you to cough without covering your mouth.
But the big one, and it was a potential rumor of who the villain was going to be. It seems to be confirmed, or at least he'll play a major part in the movie. Starro. Starro was in the movie for, I think anyone who's not familiar with the comics will not know who Starro is, but anyone who is familiar with the comics knows who Starro is. Starro was an interesting choice, to say the least, because in the comics, he actually is the first villain that the Justice League fight. Starro is an alien, despite the fact that he looks like a giant starfish. But he does have the ability to do a lot of stuff. He has the ability to control people, which will be very intriguing to see how Gunn handles that ability, if he even uses that ability at all with Starro in the movie. But Starro was a very interesting. There was rumors that he was going to appear in the movie because there was like a set photo, or I think it was. I don't think it was a set photo. I think it was during that first HBO Max trailer. There's a shot of Idris Elba and there's a shot of a guard in the back, and it looks like there was a starfish on his face, or something that could be a starfish on his face. And everyone kind of ran with that, and everyone thought that it was going to be Starro. And it looks like it is going to be Starro. So that's pretty cool, that Gunn would not just bring all these characters in. And a lot of these characters, I don't think not that many people know. I mean, a lot of these characters are also villains in the comic book. They're not just made up characters. Like the Thinker is a Flash villain. Polka Dot Man is a Flash villain. Bloodsport is a Superman villain, or I think he's dealt with other characters before, but I don't want to give too much away just in case they bring some of that up in the movie. But especially for people that don't know, but Starro is a very interesting choice, and I'm very, very intrigued to see what Gunn does with Starro and the whole movie overall. I mean, the trailer definitely feels like it's a Gunn movie, and the movie feels like it's going to be a James Gunn movie with all the humor and stuff. So I was already super excited for this. I'm even more super excited now that we've seen the trailer. So I cannot wait for the Suicide Squad. The Suicide Squad will open in theaters and HBO Max on August 6th. So yeah, that's really cool. That was a nice surprise. All right, so let's move on to the big movie news items of the week. The first one we're going to talk about is Warner Brothers. So Warner Brothers was actually in the news a lot this week. Of course, the Snyder Cut came out last weekend, and everyone's been talking about it. It's been the thing all week, still to this day. And it doesn't help that Warner Brothers has been, going around saying a lot of things, because in an interview with Variety, pretty much at the beginning of the week, Warner Media Studios CEO Anna Snarnoff has stated that they will not, as a capital N-O-T, not restore the Snyderverse or release the David Ayer cut of Suicide Squad. The Ayer cut, quote-unquote, movement, that's what you want to call it, started when the release of the Snyder Cut movement started, because David Ayer himself became very vocal about how the Suicide Squad we saw in theaters was not the movie that he was hired to write and direct, and that the studio, of course, took it away from him. He was hoping that fans would become vocal enough to get the studio to release his cut of the movie. And when asked point blank about the Ayer cut, Snarnoff said this: "We will not be, quote, we will not be developing an Ayer cut. David Ayer's cut," end quote. So, David, very funny. Of course, Ayer came out on Twitter simply asking why in the answering of Snarnoff's comments. As for the new hashtag of Restore the Snyderverse, she said this, saying, quote, "I appreciate that they love Zack's work and we are very thankful for his contributions to DC. We're just so happy that he could bring his cut of the Justice League to life, because that wasn't in the plan until about a year ago. With that comes the completion of his trilogy. We are very happy we've done this, but we're very excited about the plans we have for all the multi-dimensional DC characters that we are developing right now," end quote. So basically, stop asking, obviously that's kind of what she's saying. She's saying stop asking, we're not going to restore the Snyderverse. You've had your moment and we're done. Obviously, that's not going to stop people from, using the hashtag and trying to get the thing and trying to, restore the Snyderverse. But it does seem like Warner Brothers is moving on with everything, and with the Zack Snyder movies and everything like that. I did mention when I talked about it last week on the show about the Snyder Cut, how release the Snyder Cut was a very tremendous and just one of those very random movements by fans online that were so vocal that was actually successful. And would it happen again? I mentioned that it was very doubtful that it would happen again, and I'm still holding on to that. And again, if fans keep tweeting at them and they keep saying restore the Snyderverse and everything else, if it works, hey, it works. Great, awesome, unprecedented again. But I don't think I don't think it's going to work again. But that's just me. That's me, ever the pessimist in everything, not just movie wise. All right, moving on. Like I mentioned, Warner Brothers was in the news a lot. So we're moving off that to Zatanna, because apparently Warner Brothers and DC Films have hired a promising young woman director, and I believe she also wrote the movie, Emerald Fennell, to write their movie of Zatanna. The character, for those who don't know, is a very powerful magician who has connections to Justice League and Justice League Dark, and more in particular, John Constantine. Zatanna hasn't appeared in the movies yet, but she was in the TV series Smallville, so this would be her first foray into the feature film territory. The movie will be produced by J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot banner, although no word yet on if he is directly involved with producing the movie, just his company. Although Bad Robot is working on a Justice League Dark universe for DC Films, so there's a possibility that this could be, something more. Fennell is coming off, of course, like I mentioned, her Oscar nominations for Promising Young Woman. She was also the showrunner on the second season of Killing Eve, also writing for the series. And I didn't know this mainly because I don't watch it, and honestly, I didn't know too much about Emerald Fennell too much. She's on the Netflix series The Crown as the character of Camila, in case for anyone who watches it who's listening to the show. So yeah, I always liked Zatanna. I think she was a very interesting character, so I'm happy to see that she's getting the spotlight and getting her own movie. No word yet on if it will be a HBO Max movie, because I know the HBO Max series is getting I believe a Batgirl movie or series or something like that. So I don't know if maybe Zatanna is part of that deal or not. Forgot to look that up. I apologize. Last week it was reported that the Flash movie was losing Billy Crudup as the role of Henry Allen due to scheduling conflicts. Well, now it looks like they found his replacement in Ron Livingston. Of course, most people probably know him from Office Space. Well, although that movie's, I don't know how many years old? At least 20 years old by now. Anyway, the movie has added Spanish actress Maribel Verdú. That was last week from Pan's Labyrinth and Y Tu Mamá También as Barry's mother, along with officially adding Kirstie Clemens as Iris West, of course reprising her role from Zack Snyder's Justice League. Other new additions to the cast include young actor Ian Lowe, who will be playing a young Barry Allen, and two other up-and-coming actors in unknown roles in Saoirse Monica Jackson and Rudy Mancuso. Of course, Ezra Miller will return to play adult Barry Allen, aka The Flash. Ben Affleck will come back as Bruce Wayne / Batman. Sasha Calle will be playing Supergirl, and maybe Michael Keaton as Tim Burton's Bruce Wayne / Batman, because there was a report, I think it was this week or maybe over the weekend, that read, at least for how I read it and how a lot of other people read it, that it sounded like travel restrictions and maybe the pandemic will affect Michael Keaton's involvement in the Flash movie. So until it's officially announced, Michael Keaton's involvement in The Flash is pretty much up in the air right now. I know that would be a massive blow to a lot of fans, and I know that would be probably a massive blow to the movie because they would have to rework that movie all over again. Of course, we didn't know really the extent of how big his role is going to be in this movie. So again, maybe losing him won't be that big of a deal, but if they lose him anyway, if they don't lose him, then well, obviously none of that really matters, but still, it's worrisome again, because the Flash has had a lot of false starts of production, and it's never finally gotten off the ground. But production is gonna start soon in London, whether Michael Keaton is involved or not. I hope. Andy Muschietti is directing the movie that he's directing off the script by Christina Hodson, who did the screenplay for Birds of Prey. The Flash has a current release date of November 4th, 2022. So we'll just have to wait and see on that. Finally, the other big surprise casting that I talked about earlier on the podcast is that Black Adam, the other movie that has had a lot of false beginning production dates, has casted Pierce Brosnan, aka James Bond himself, as Dr. Fate. This is the final piece of the key cast of characters to complete the Justice Society of America, which will appear in the movie. The character has gone through different people to take the mantle in the comics, but the Hollywood Reporter notes that Brosnan will play Kent Nielsen, aka the original Dr. Fate. The son of an archaeologist, Nielsen opens up the mysterious tomb of Nabu the Wise and is later taught, that's two very different things, later taught by the ancient god to become a very skilled sorcerer and wield the Helmet of Fate. The rest of the cast includes Dwayne Johnson as Black Adam himself, who revealed that production is expected to begin very soon. Noah Centineo, I think that's how you pronounce his last name, will play Adam Smasher. Newcomer Quintessa Swindell will play the character of Cyclone, and Aldous Hodge from The Invisible Man will play Hawkman. Other people in the cast include Sarah Shahai, who is co-starring as a university professor and freedom fighter leading the resistance in Kahndaq, which of course is the fictional country that Black Adam comes from, and Marwan Kenzari from the Old Guard and from the live-action Aladdin movie, aka to many people on the internet, Hot Jafar, which just makes me cringe even saying that out loud. He will be playing a unknown character in the movie. Hamet Colette Serra, who the director of Orphan, The Shallows, The Commuter, and the upcoming Disney live-action Jungle Cruise movie, is directing the movie that is finally going to production. Like I mentioned, Black Adam currently has no release date, but with it finally going to production, we could probably see it within at least the next 2 years for sure. So there you go. That's pretty cool. And Pierce Brosnan, I mean, it's James Bond. And to have someone like him come in to play Dr. Fate is really, really cool. I think the level of I can't think of the word now, just the level of finesse, there you go, I'll just say that, that he brings in any role he does, and to play a character like Dr. Fate, I think is going to be really, really cool and really, really exciting. So the last Warner Brothers movie news update we'll have here is it's actually pretty big. I'm not gonna lie, this is actually a pretty big deal. Warner Brothers and Regal Cinemas have struck a deal that is big for both parties now that theaters are starting to reopen up nationwide. The deal is that Regal will reopen theaters in the US on April 2nd in a limited number of locations, followed by more locations on April 16th. Both of these dates just happen to be release dates for Godzilla vs. Kong and Mortal Kombat. This is the beginning of a multi-year deal between the two, which is really big. Regal Cinemas will show Warner Brother movies through the rest of the year, even though they're streaming on HBO Max the same day. But starting in 2022, starting next year, Warner Brothers will go through the traditional theatrical window and have agreed to give its new release dates 45 days of exclusive theater engagements at Regal before putting them on HBO Max. Now, this is pretty similar to what Paramount Plus is doing, the 45-day window, where a movie will, again, be released in theaters and will come out afterwards on the platforms 45 days after that. Paramount, of course, does, although unlike Warner Bros., Paramount doesn't have a deal with any sort of any movie theater, at least that we know of. Universal did strike a deal with AMC Theaters last year to allow movies to be available on PVOD, of course, Premium Video on Demand, a minimum of 17 days after they hit theaters. That was, of course, after the whole Trolls The World Tour debacle that went on. If you remember, that was a very noteworthy news item that was going around a lot of places. Traditionally, the window is 90 days, and if a studio and theater chain didn't agree to the 90-day window, the theater chain will just not show their movie. So if you're ever wondering why a movie never played at a certain place, it's because of that. Some people are speculating that the windows, the theater window will become shorter and shorter once everything starts to open up again. And obviously now that some of these studios have streaming platforms like Paramount, like Warner Brothers, even Disney, for that example. We'll talk about Disney in a little bit. The theater is going to be, the theater window is going to be pretty short, and it may even be 45 days afterwards. I mean, that's a big drop from 90 days to 45 days. So, I mean, I wouldn't put it past them if they end up changing this. I like that Regal and Warner Brothers have a nice little deal. That probably means that Regal will probably be, I'm not saying that Regal will be exclusive only to showing Warner Brothers movies, but at least for this year, Regal does not mind that Warner Brothers will be releasing their movies on same day on a platform or on their platform of HBO Max. But starting next year, obviously that will not be the case, and hopefully by next year we can all be sitting in a movie theater and not worried about catching coronavirus. That is the hope. Anyway, we can only hope that big. So that's a pretty big deal. That's a pretty big deal for everyone involved, for Regal and for Warner Brothers. All right, so let's move on to the rest of the movie news items. We're going to be sticking with comics, at least for this next movie news item, because Keanu Reeves is set to produce and star in both a live-action film and an anime spin-off series based off his own Boom Studios comic book limited series, BRZRKR, all of which will come out on Netflix. The comic is a 12-issue run based off an idea that Reeves himself has been developing for years. The synopsis for the comics reads like this: the man only known as B is a half-mortal and half-god cursed and compelled to violence, even at the sacrifice of his own sanity. But after wandering the world for centuries, B may finally have found a refuge working for the U.S. government to fight the battles too violent and too dangerous for anyone else. In exchange, B will be granted the one thing he desires, the truth about his endless blood-soaked existence and how to end it. I have not read BRZRKR yet. It is something that I have been wanting to read. So I'm glad that this finally is coming out. And obviously Keanu Reeves being attached to it himself is pretty cool. He's going to be produce and star. I'm assuming that the main character, I've seen like the cover art and stuff, so it does look like Keanu Reeves. So he is basically playing himself in the comic books, which is pretty cool. So I'll be glad to see him do that. And obviously the anime spin-off series they're doing. Netflix is doing a lot of anime series spin-offs. They got the Lara Croft one. They got the the King Kong one coming out as well. So they're getting in the anime business, which I'm okay with. But this sounds pretty cool. So speaking of Keanu Reeves, we have some much needed updates on the John Wick franchise. That came out this week. For one, John Wick screenwriter Derek Kolstad said he will not be returning to write the 4th and 5th movie, which, depending on how the stories play out, could be an intriguing one to see. Instead, Mike Finch, or Michael Finch, if you want to look him up, but he's written movies like American Assassin, Predators, Hitman Agent 47, and Countdown. He is reportedly the head writer for the 4th film that will start shooting this summer. So they are finally starting to shoot John Wick 4 this summer, which is pretty cool. Not only that, John Wick 4 will be filming not just in New York, but it will also film in Berlin, in Paris, and Japan. There's still no word yet on what the actual story is, but considering how the last movie ended, we can only assume, especially with all these, these movies usually kind of stick to like 1 or 2 places. Most of it is in New York. So the fact that they are have been slowly, going internationally has been something pretty cool. And now it looks like they are fully going international with the 4th film, which is pretty cool. Anyway, the other update is, despite the initial plan for shooting Part 4 and Part 5 back to back, it looks like that is no longer the case, because right now they are only shooting John Wick 4. Of course, things could change, but it seems like they're giving up on that back-to-back shoot date for that. No word yet as to why. Maybe the pandemic, they just want to be on the safer side and not keep too many people together for that long or anything like that. So, but I'm excited to see what they have planned for Berlin and Paris and Japan. I think that lends itself to be pretty cool, especially with John Wick and everything. So Chad Stahelski, of course, will return to direct the movies. It's just a writer not coming back for anything like that. Speaking of Chad Stahelski, segue. Sony Pictures and PlayStation Productions are developing a film adaptation of their highly successful action-adventure game, Ghost of Tsushima. I think that's how you pronounce that. Ghost of Tsushima, and they have hired Chad Stahelski to direct the movie, which I think is really awesome. So the game centers on the samurai warrior of Jin Sakai, the last surviving member of his clan, who must set aside his traditions that have shaped him as a warrior to wage an unconventional war for freedom of Tsushima. No word yet on a writer, but Stahelski is going into production, like I mentioned, of John Wick 4. He's also developing the Highlander reboot, which probably will help him out a little bit on this. Of course, the main thing about Ghost of Tsushima is that it is it's pretty much a samurai game, so it's a lot of swordplay. So obviously Highlander will probably help him out on that a little bit. He's also directing another action-adventure movie called Classified, which we talked about in the podcast, I believe last week or the week before. And of course, the John Wick spin-off Ballerina, which he is not directing, but he is producer on. That one will be directed by Len Wiseman. So this is pretty cool. I haven't had a good chunk of the game. I've had the game for a while. I just never played it. So I've probably played a good few hours of it already, and it does lend itself to have this cinematic kind of world. So it should be interesting to see what they dive into on that. But especially because it's such an open world game that open world games are usually a little tough, because you want to follow the main story of it, but do you bring in other elements? Do you tease them out? What do you do with certain stuff like that? So it should be interesting to see how they do it, especially because it's a period piece as well. So I think that will end up being Chad Stahelski's first period piece, really, unless whatever he does with Highlander. But yeah, this is really cool. I'm really excited for it, because even though I've only played a few hours of the game, I am very excited to see this on the big screen, especially with Chad Stahelski at the helm. I think that would be really, really cool. And everyone sounds really excited for it. Sony Pictures, PlayStation Productions, and Stahelski, they all sound really excited for it. It seems like Stahelski's a fan of the property. So obviously when you're a fan of the property, that leads to a better adaptation, instead of just being hired and be like, well, I guess I'll just learn everything in a YouTube video or from someone else. So I think that would be kind of cool. Moving on, Brad Peyton, the director of San Andreas and Rampage, is set to direct and co-write an adaptation of a video game franchise, Sniper Elite. Peyton will co-write the movie with Gary Graham, who is new to the scene, but apparently he's writing a reboot to I Am Legend over at Warner Brothers, so that's interesting. Sniper Elite will follow elite sniper Carl Fairburn through a character-driven and action-paced chase in London during the Blitz during World War II. The cat-and-mouse game will see Fairburn attempt to save the British Prime Minister, Winston Churchill, from a Nazi assassin. Rebellion, one of the production companies behind the movie, has said the adaptation will reveal the hidden story of Fairburn that I guess we didn't get in the games. I never played Sniper Elite games. Apparently there's a lot of them, a lot of spin-offs as well, but I've never played any of them. So we'll be getting a nice little hidden history of that. For one, for anyone who's never played the game, apparently one of the things is that he is a German working for the Allies. So there is that. And to say that, quote, when bombs are raining down on the British capital, Fairburn will have to make the choice between the fate of the war and confronting his deepest secret, end quote. It also sounds like, despite the very dark and deep tone of the movie, that Peyton and Graham have injected some lightness to the script, whatever that lightness may be. Obviously probably some humor along the way. And we will also be liking the opposing sniper, which is very interesting to say. Liking a Nazi sniper. Anyway, they might have a deeper connection and relationship than we think as well. Apparently, I'm assuming they're probably some sort of family, I guess, maybe. I don't know. The movie will also have a very strong female character who will be Churchill's assistant. And overall, it seems like everyone is super into the project. Variety did break the story, speaking with everyone, and everyone pretty much sounded very hyped up about it. They also pushed in that the movie will be a character-driven movie, not just a pure action movie, but it will be a character-driven project. So that will probably be very interesting, especially considering, obviously, video game movies aren't always character driven. They're pretty much story driven and action driven. So it should be interesting to kind of see how this plays out. I've never played the Sniper Elite movies, so I don't know, but just hearing everyone's reaction and how hyped up they are and how they're really pushing this movie even before it gets behind cameras is kind of exciting a little bit. It's nice to see excitement for projects like this again. All right. So finally, the last movie news item of the week, at least at the time of this recording, is Disney. Disney has overhauled their release schedule again, hopefully for the last time. And despite some pushback probably by some of these releases will be getting same day in theaters and Disney Plus releases. One of them is, of course, the much rumored move of Marvel's Black Widow, because yes, Black Widow did move from its May release date to July 9th. And Cruella has also, will keep its release date of May 28th, but both movies will be getting the hybrid release. So it's both of these movies that will premiere in theaters on that day, but will also premiere on Disney Plus through their premium access feature, where you will have to pay $30 to watch that movie. This is pretty big because obviously Kevin Feige, if you remember, probably last month that we talked about this, maybe it was in January. Kevin Feige was very against the hybrid release model. He said that he wanted his movies to come out in theaters because that's the best experience for fans to go watch them for the first time. But obviously, even then, we knew that Disney, that Kevin Feige, as powerful as he is, he still responds to Disney, and Disney obviously sees this as the best way to do it. So they're going to be releasing Black Widow and Cruella on their respective release dates in theaters and on Disney Plus the same day, through the premium access feature, which again costs $30, which is how they released Raya and the Last Dragon earlier this month and how they released Mulan back last year. There was also some other changes, obviously, with Black Widow moving, and actually took the release date of Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, which was set for July. That has been bumped down to September 3rd. So Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings will now come out on September 3rd, and we'll have a traditional movie release, so it won't be a hybrid release. The rest of these movies will also be coming out in theaters, except for Pixar's new movie, Luca, which will not play in theaters at all, and will go straight to Disney Plus for free. That will come out on June 18th. So basically what they did for Pixar's other movie, Soul, when they released it on Disney Plus for free. So that's pretty cool. Other changes include Free Guy, the Ryan Reynolds movie where he's inside a video game. That will come out on August 13th. The King's Man, the prequel to the Kingsman series, will come out on December 22nd. Deep Water, the movie with Ben Affleck and Ana de Armas, that will come out on January 14th, 2022. And the Death on the Nile, the sequel to The Murder on the Orient Express, will come out on February 11th, 2022 as well. Kareem Daniel, the chairman of Disney Media and Entertainment Distributions, said about the move, saying, quote, reflects our focus on providing customer choice and serving the evolving preferences of our audiences. By leveraging a flexible distribution strategy in a dynamic marketplace that is beginning to recover from the global pandemic, we will continue to employ the best options to deliver the Walt Disney Company's unparalleled storytelling to fans and families around the world. So yeah, this is pretty cool. This is pretty interesting. It's pretty cool and intriguing, and all the other adjectives that I can use that I can possibly think of. Obviously, the big thing is that Black Widow and Cruella will be getting the hybrid release, especially Black Widow. There was a lot of rumors that they were just going to push it back until movie theaters were open. It seems like Disney doesn't want to wait anymore. They've been listening to the fans a little bit. There's always that conversation. We've had this conversation in the past. I say this as a birthday gift. My family rented out a theater so we can go watch Nobody on Saturday. And we also rented out a theater to go watch Godzilla vs. Kong. So, it's just, obviously we know that not a lot of people have that option. We're a big family, so it makes sense that we can rent out a movie theater. It's just, if it was just like one or two of us, like, no, we're not going to rent out a movie theater. That's crazy. But there's enough of us where it makes sense. But regardless of that, like with the Warner Brothers Regal deal, this is huge. The fact that they want to keep changing release dates, sure, but the fact that they were going to release Black Widow and Cruella, especially Cruella, because Cruella comes out of the blue. Cruella they could have just dropped on Disney Plus, but they're going to be like, no, we want it in theaters, but we also want it at home for people to watch it. So that's pretty cool. But the way Disney handled this, the way saying, we're listening to the fans, we're leveraging a flexible distribution strategy in a dynamic marketplace. That's their words. I think that's kind of cool. I think the fact that they handle that very well, and so like, okay, we're going to be releasing some movies on both platforms. Here you go. If you want to watch it at home, you can, but we're also giving you the option to watch it in a movie theater. I think that's the best way to do it, because there's some people that are still going to movie theaters, and it's July, so hopefully the plan is, at least from the White House, is that everyone's vaccinated by at least the beginning of May. We're at the end of March, basically, pretty much. So more people are getting vaccinated. Hopefully, we'll see. Okay, that's it. So that's all of the news items that have come out this week, at least at the time of this recording. Thank you very much for listening, no matter where you're listening to this, on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, on Stitcher, on Spotify, wherever you're listening to this. I very much appreciate it. Go do all the things that will make you, come back, like, subscribe, follow, whatever it is on that platform that you're listening to. Very much appreciate it. If there's a rating option on the podcast, on the platform you're listening to, please give us a rating and review. Very much appreciate it. That could be your birthday present to me. Just do that, because it helps out the podcast in the long run. There's also the social media accounts down below if you want to go check those out for the podcast and for my personal stuff. So you want to go follow both of those or just follow one of them, that's down there as well. The WordPress account is also down there. It's pretty much laying dormant. I did write a Zack Snyder spoiler-filled thoughts thing. If you listen to the podcast, it's pretty much the same thing. Some little things I forgot to mention on the podcast last week, like the aspect ratio and a couple other things, just a couple of little small things. But that's up on there as well. Next week, we will have a review of Nobody. I will be doing a review of Nobody for next week. The week after that, we'll have a review of Godzilla vs. Kong. The week after that, I don't know. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast this week. I very much appreciate it. You guys are very, very kind to listen to the podcast all the way through, especially this week, because I feel like I've rambled for the most part. So thank you for listening to the podcast. Be safe, be kind, and as always, go watch some movies.
Whoop whoop! Yeah! Give it up! Movies!